I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Isn't that an amazing verse? Chances are you've probably heard that verse before. Maybe you've seen it in various places, maybe on a coffee mug, maybe on some kind of a poster. It's one of those Bible verses that's quoted all the time. And when you hear it, you immediately get excited. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But what exactly does that verse mean? Does it mean that you can ace any exam? Does it mean that you can land any job that you want? Does it mean that you might even be able to win the lottery? Is Philippians 4:13 a blank check from God that basically allows us to cash it in any way that we want? In this video, I don't want to just give you a yes or no answer. Let's take some time to look at this incredible verse very carefully and see exactly what it says. What did the Apostle Paul actually mean? And how can we apply this powerful passage to our lives today? So to understand any verse in the Bible, it's always important that we understand the context. Context is always king. You have to take a verse and consider the surrounding verses to get the subject matter that's being addressed. So what's the context surrounding this powerful verse? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This is a letter that is referred to as a prison epistle. And that's because Paul wrote this letter when he was in prison. He's writing to a congregation that he loved very much, the Philippian congregation. And to these brethren, he's expressing thanks. That's because these Philippian brethren had sent him financial aid during a time when he was alone, isolated, and in need. And that brings us to Philippians 4. Let's begin the context around verse 11. Listen to what he says right before that well-known verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Verse 11 says, not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. For I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. Did you catch that? He's writing about his physical material needs, things like food and clothing, financial support. He says, I've learned to abound. There were times in Paul's life when he was abounding, when he didn't have any needs. He didn't have enough. He had more than enough. He was comfortable, he was well fed, and he was financially secure. But he also writes here that he learned to be brought low, to suffer need. Paul writes that there were times in his life where he learned what it was like to be poor. He understood what it felt like to be hungry. You see, Paul had lived his life on both ends of the spectrum. And so whether he was rich or whether he was poor, he learned the secret of being content. And so what was that secret? He learned that he could be poor and still be content. He could be rich and still be content. It didn't matter what his pantry looked like. He could be content. He had learned that regardless of his condition, he could be content. And so when you finally come to verse 13, and he says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, he wasn't talking about prosperity. He wasn't talking about winning the lottery. He wasn't talking about business success. He was talking about the idea of endurance. The strength that he's talking about is not the power to get that promotion. The power he's talking about is the power to remain faithful to God even when you get laid off. It isn't the strength to always have a perfect bill of health. It's the strength to continue to praise God even when you're faced with a painful diagnosis. This verse is not about the power of achievement. It's about the power of contentment. That no matter what kind of circumstance you face in your life, you can still be content. So how does this apply to us right now, today? When we understand what this verse says in context, it becomes so much more beautiful and powerful than simply a blank check from God. Maybe for you, the struggle is financial. Maybe you're looking at a stack of bills and you're feeling the anxiety that Paul talked about, the feeling of being in need. If that's true, this verse is for you. It's a promise that Christ can give you the strength to endure, to trust, to find contentment that isn't tied to your financial situation. Maybe for you, the struggle is with your family, a difficult relationship, a conflict that you can't seem to resolve. Maybe you've been brought low emotionally. If that's true, this verse is for you. The strength that comes from Christ is the strength for you to keep loving, keep forgiving, keep showing understanding and compassion, even when you want to give up on the relationship. Maybe your struggle is related to your health. That's something that I think about myself. I've been dealing with chronic pain for years, and I find that there are days when it's difficult for me to get out of bed. But honestly, the hardest part for me isn't my own pain. It's watching my dear wife struggle with her own health. When it's a battle for her just to get through the day, it is so hard to see someone you love suffering, being in pain, and feeling so helpless. And to be totally honest, one of my deepest worries is that one day I'm going to lose her. In these moments, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me is not a magical cure for life's difficulties. It's the strength to continue to be a caregiver when I feel like I have nothing else to give. It's a strength to offer her a kind word when my own heart is breaking. It's the strength to face my fears, not with denial, but with the trust that Christ is holding us both, no matter what happens. That's the strength that comes from Christ. So is Philippians 4:13 a blank check from God? No. It is something so much better. A blank check gives you temporary comfort, but this verse offers you eternal strength. A blank check might be able to change your circumstances, but this verse promises you comfort that your circumstances can't touch. You see, the strength of Christ is available to you today. Not the strength to get what you want, but the strength to handle what you get. And so thank you so much for joining me today, spending time with me. If you found these things helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe for more lessons where we can look at the Bible, see what it means, and then step back and see what it means for us. In the comments below, let me know how God's strength has helped you through your difficult times. Your story could be exactly what someone else needs to learn how to gain strength through Christ. I pray that God will be with you, and we'll see you in the next video.